Hi, welcome everyone to PopCultX episode 96. This week we got some more hot topics with your co-host Danny and myself Gabriel. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So everything that kind of everyone's talking about right now is centered around Chris Rock's new Comedy special. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I did watch it, and I'll say this: I don't know how many times, if any, before Netflix has done a live special. Mm-hmm. So we just happened to be glancing at the TV, and I saw a Netflix live Chris Rock special. I was like, "What?" So I put it on, and it was really cool. I think really not courageous. That's not the right word, but really, I guess cool is the only word I can think of. That they did it live so that everyone got to see the same thing at the same time. So I thought that was really neat, really cool, really, I don't want to say courageous, but it was really cool.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw particularly, what everyone is talking about is he's finally made a comment about what happened between him and Will Smith. A lot of people are claiming it as like this big victory for Chris Rock, that he really put Will Smith in his place. I don't really necessarily think that. Having watched it, there was a couple of jokes that centered around the fact that Will Smith is much bigger than Chris Rock, that he played Muhammad Ali, whereas Chris Rock played Pookie from
New Jack City,
which was a great joke. But I think that makes you definitely feel sorry for Chris Rock, but it doesn't necessarily make me, I'm not like, oh, he really got Will Smith on that comment. Then as he kind of further goes in on the special, he says that Will Smith has what's the whole show was called Selective
Outrage.
Outrage, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think that that's another like dig at Will Smith, like that's really a great introspective or hot topic or hot take. Like I think everyone has selective outrage, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
I mean, so like it's kind of just like, I don't know, like I don't think that that's anything that was all too brilliant or all too introspective or pointing out something. It kind of pointing out the obvious in my mind. So I didn't really think that was a really big win for Chris Rock. At one point, he just kind of repeatedly said that everyone thinks that Will Smith is a bitch. He's just like,
over and over and over again.
The bitch is a bitch. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess I had a higher standard for Chris Rock. I think that he is a very smart, intelligent, like brilliant at sometimes comedian. And I thought he had all this time to sort of ruminate on the actions of Will Smith, like what caused it, how he felt about it. And the fact that was what he came up with, I was slightly disappointed. I didn't think that his digs were that great or were that funny. I don't know. So I was a little disappointed by it. What were your thoughts?
Well, just going back to what you said real quick about him saying Will Smith, or everyone saying, yeah, he's a bitch, and over. I think that was just the build up to his punchline of that joke was, and who does he slap? Me. So it wasn't really a dig. It was just more of a building up to that punchline of that he's the one that Will Smith decided to take all that anger and frustration out on. Right.
Yeah.
So when I watched that, the whole special live, I was waiting to see if he was going to say something because I wasn't sure. Because throughout the whole program and as it proceeded, he was talking about other things. He had some pretty funny things in there. And then it got to the point where he started talking about it. And I sat forward because I was like, ooh, this is going to get good. When it first happened almost a year ago today, right? The slap heard around the world. I really wasn't on one side or the other of who. I wasn't Team Smith or Team Rock. It was just like something that maybe I wish wouldn't have happened live on the Academy Awards, but it did. Mm-hmm. And it just was like, oh, okay. I remember we talked about that last year. We talked about how that felt, who was in the wrong, what should the repercussions be of that? And this when the special came out and he did this, like you said, he had a year to think about how to get back at him, so to speak.
Right.
And was it a letdown to me? I think it not really. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting him to like, hey, Will, come on, get up on stage. We're gonna go 9 rounds or something, right? So it wasn't like tossing the gauntlet at him.
Mhm.
He did it in his own way, using his own platform, which is stand-up comedy. So if I look at it through that lens, I think then he nailed it because that's all he was trying to do. He was trying to make a point, but because he did it through his stand-up, I think it had to be humorous.
Mhm.
It couldn't just have been like if he had wrote like a memoir or something like that, or some sort of tell-all opinion piece somewhere.
Yeah.
It could have been a little bit more serious, and I think that would have been held maybe to a little higher esteem. And I even asked that question on Twitter. I was like, because he used his platform as stand up, is it held to the same weight had it been a memoir or something like that? Because I don't know. I think if he thought if it didn't go over well, he could always go back and say, hey, it's just a comedy bit, if people didn't perceive it the way he wanted to. But I enjoyed it. I think I like the fact that he finally said something. And
yeah. Well, I appreciate that he articulated his thoughts on
yeah.
the whole situation. Another point of contention for me was that he said, I'm never going to play victim. I ain't a victim. I took that punch like Pacquiao or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see me on Gail or on Oprah.
Right.
But like then he turned around and like almost was like, I'm just a skinny little guy, and here's Will Smith is so big, and and I wasn't saying anything. All these other people were, and he hit. To me, he did kind of sound like he was playing a victim, like he was playing like I'm a little guy, and look at this big guy. Will Smith isn't exactly like a hardcore gangster rapper, right? He was sort of like the like nice guy rapper.
Yeah,
so like it's not like he's like this, like he called him, Suge Smith. He's like far from Suge Knight. Like I would be scared of Suge Knight in a room. I would not be scared of Will Smith. So like in a way, I felt like he kind of was playing victim by like saying how skinny he is. I mean, based off of their personas in the media, I would assume that Chris Rock is a little bit more street smart than Will Smith is. I don't know them. I don't know their personal backgrounds, whether it's the opposite or if neither of them are street smart. But I would imagine, based off of the perception, that Chris Rock is a little bit more street smart or a little bit more, streetwise. So I was a little bit surprised by that, like that he was like, I'm not a victim, but then he kept saying like he's such a little guy, that he's skinny, he's smaller, all of that. I still don't appreciate that. Like one of the criticisms that he had, right, was that Jada Pinkett Smith was like, he's running his mouth about me, like it's been an ongoing thing, and I kind of don't like the fact that he was like, look, I wasn't saying shit about this bitch, like this bitch this, and she started it and I ended it, and this is just how comedy works. I felt like it was a little bit like of a cop out of addressing the issue of him kind of going after her. He could have said it, and then to kind of demean her again by just calling her a bitch. Will Smith hit you. Go ahead, call him a bitch, call him a bitch, call him a bitch. But like, what did Jada do to him? That again, he is calling her, like saying that she's a bitch. I thought that was a little bit too much, because like she didn't do anything to him.
Right.
So why a bitch? What is bitch to him? The fact that he mentioned that story about saying, oh, I think you should protest the Academy Awards because there weren't enough Black nominees. She's voicing her opinion just like he does. Like everyone's mad about Will Smith hitting him because that's his free speech and comedians have the right to say whatever they want. Well, she was saying what she wanted, and then now she's got to be a bitch. Now she's got to have like a confrontation with him. So that if I had to say like, okay, whose team am I on? I'm slightly more on the Smiths camp than I am on Chris Rock, to be honest. Like I don't like when like he sort of tried to make Will Smith like he's a bully, like, oh,
Hmm.
he's so much bigger than me, he's picking on me.
Yeah.
All these people are talking shit, but he picked on me. When in reality, like comedians can kind of be the bully, right? He
Yeah.
went
True.
after Jada Pinkett Smith, he went out of Will Smith. He was making fun of the fact that Jada cheated on Will Smith, and everyone had an opinion. That is bullying. Like you're taking a rumor about what happened about someone's relationship, making jokes about it. That's sort of what bullies do, right? And then say, oh, don't take it so seriously, it's just a joke, I'm just messing around with you, it's just a joke, it's just a joke.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know, I guess it's a very nuanced argument, like who's going to take. But um I think that comedians do take a lot of um they think that they have a free pass when it comes to making fun of people and being free of consequence.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that. And especially when I don't appreciate men making fun of women. I don't know. I just maybe I'm from a different generation, or was have a different perspective, or was raised differently. But like I kind of remember of like this is a just a different recollection of someone who did that, was because I was watching a story earlier on Christina Aguilera and Eminem, and Eminem going after, like, of all the people that he could have gone after in the entertainment industry, he went after like a 90-pound like
Hmm.
singer. Like, and
Hmm.
I just thought, like, you want me to respect you when you're going after some young girl? Like, that's such a like a punk move. Like,
Yeah.
and so like Chris Rock going after Jada Pinkett, even though she's certainly capable of defending herself, at least like verbally, um, I just don't. It doesn't give off a cool vibe for me. Especially he's not a young man. Chris Rock's pretty old. Like
Yeah.
by now you could definitely turn like the corner and like start doing a different type of comedy other than insult comedy. Um, but that's his stick, like that's his thing, right? So I
In a
don't know if
way, yeah.
he can do that.
The only thing I'll say, not in his defense, but one thing I noticed that right before he called her a bitch is that he messed up his joke.
Yeah.
So he flummoxed his joke, and I don't know if that threw off his sequence of events, and maybe he just mumbled that out there, and I don't know if that was his intention, but I knew he seemed a little riled after he messed up his joke, and he had to circle back around to try to get back on track. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that was part of it. Um, but yeah, no, I completely understand. I came from the same camp as you. I don't ever like to disrespect women in that way, and maybe it's just like you said, just how we were raised, right?
Are you
So,
sure you don't want to take a stand and say you're you're
I
pro going bullying women? Are you sure you don't want to think
I don't think that's the flag I want to stand. That's not the hill I want to die on. Yeah.
about Well, I think that we kind of, that we articulated what we wanted to say about Chris Rock, but talking about the Academy Awards, they're actually coming up this week
Hmm.
after our podcast posts. It'll be just a few days away. So I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you. Like I do get excited still about the Academy Awards. I do like Hollywood, the glamour, the fashion. Sometimes the stories, the acceptance speeches run a little long, get a little bit boring. But this year, I am a little bit excited based off of the nominees. But
Yeah.
since we're talking about it, why don't we go ahead and go over some of our predictions or what we're looking for?
Yes, let's do that. Let's do like a final predictions, I guess you could call it, because I see that happening a lot since it is, like you said, coming up. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw out some of the I have it here, the list of nominees. So I'll throw them out, and maybe your guess has changed from when we talked about this a month ago.
All
So
right.
let's just start with best supporting actress, because it's right here. So of course the nominee, and I just lost it because I scrolled down too much. Best supporting actress, of course, the nominees are Angela Bassett, Hung Chow. Oh, Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, which, by the way, we've never talked about, you and me, after I finally saw it. So maybe that will be coming up. Hung Chow for The Whale, Carrie Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Sue for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Has your choice changed, or is it still the same?
I am still Angela Bassett for sure.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen, I think the only movie I haven't seen is the whale, so I can't really say about Hong Chau's performance.
Yeah.
But Carrie Condon was great in Banshees of Inisherin. She really was. So that would be my dark horse for this.
Yeah.
But I think Angela Bassett's going to win it as well.
If Angela Bassett doesn't win, the only acceptable winner for me would be Jamie Lee Curtis because I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She's old Hollywood. She's, a nepotism
Nepo
baby.
baby is having
Yeah,
a moment right now. Yeah.
right. And so, but she's like so awesome. Like I love Jamie Lee Curtis. So
yeah,
if Angela loses, Jamie Lee is the only she's a scream queen. Like she came from, all of those old horror movies. So I definitely, I don't know. Those are the only two acceptable answers for me. So.
Right on. Okay, let's go to Best Supporting Actor. So Brendan Gleeson for Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fablemans, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, and I can't even say his name. Sorry, Ki Hua Kwan for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I'm hoping that Key wins for Everything All at Once. I just think he would make such a great story, and I think that he's so like an iconic actor for our generation, being the star of the Goonies and Indiana Jones franchise. I would love to see him win.
I agree. I would love to see him win as well for those reasons and because he did a great job. But I think the fact that both Barry Keoghan and Brendan Gleeson from the Banshees of Inisherin are both nominated probably took away some votes from one another because Brendan Gleeson, he did a great job in that movie, Banshees of Inisherin. He was fantastic and totally could see him running away with that had he hadn't been also nominated with Barry, I think.
Nice.
Okay, so Best Lead Actress. Now this one, let's just go through the nominees. Cate Blanchett with Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams in The Fablemans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I don't even have to say it. This is Michelle Yeoh's year. Yeah, she's definitely going to win. It's going to be like a cool moment. It's going to be triumphant. She's going to be glamorous. She's going to be everything, everywhere, all at once. It's going to be super, super cool. I can't wait. I'm going to be watching just to see her win.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope you don't get disappointed because Cate Blanchett in Tar was fantastic. Also Michelle Williams.
I'll start like flipping tables over.
Just make sure you record yourself doing that. I want to see it. Set up a camera. Look, I'm so mad. But Michelle Williams in The Fablemans was also great. She was. Have you seen The Fablemans yet? Have you seen The Fablemans yet?
I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, she was just really good. Really, really good.
She's a really great actress. They're all really great actresses, but the Academy Awards, it's about like a culmination of like your performance, like the vibes that you're giving off. It's almost like the universe comes within alignment, and Michelle Yeoh is having that moment.
Oh, like, I agree.
Like it's sort of like with Halle Berry. It's just like it's almost like an unspoken thing where like all the pieces come together and fit perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but like I'm really just hoping, fingers crossed, that I'm right and she does win, because I'll be so disappointed if Cate Blanchett wins. I mean, let's be honest, like Cate Blanchett like is going to have more opportunity to win. She's a really great actress. I don't think Michelle Yeoh is going to have, 4 or 5 more movies where she's going to be able to get nominated for an Academy Award.
Well, I certainly hope not. I mean, I certainly hope she has more opportunities, but
I think she will. But she's a foreign actress, and so it's not very often that actors and actresses in foreign films get nominated for actor or actress. Whereas Cate Blanchett, she is also a foreign actress. She's Australian, but she's in a lot of American movies, right?
Yeah, true. No, you're right.
Portrays Americans, and I just think that the opportunity is a little bit greater for her.
I agree. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. I want Michelle Yeoh to win. I think, and I will at the end. I'll give more thoughts about that. But yeah, I want Michelle Yeoh to win. Okay, so best lead actor: Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Well, Paul Mescal for After Sun, and Bill Nighy for Living.
Okay, I
Thoughts?
think I changed my answer because I want to say that I said Brendan Fraser last time we talked about award season.
Okay,
I'm going to go with Colin Farrell.
I can agree with that.
Yeah,
Although I think Austin Butler is going to win it. I
for
really do.
Elvis.
Yeah,
I,
I
I
really
I
do.
understand your perspective is like the biopic, like it's like the opposite of a curse. It's like the biopic. I don't know, what would you call the opposite of a curse? Like uh
Blessing, what?
blessing, yeah.
Yeah,
And so I could see that, but it hasn't had the kind of buzz that like Ray Charles
yeah, that's true.
did,
Yeah.
or the Joaquin Phoenix and when he portrayed
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. Doesn't have like that vibe that I'm talking about, that buzz with Michelle Yao. It just doesn't. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't feel that that's
Well,
gonna happen.
does the only one who I think has that buzz and that vibe is Brendan Fraser,
Yeah.
right? So Colin Farrell doesn't have that buzz.
No, I
Um,
just like Colin Farrell.
well, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was fantastic in that movie.
Yeah.
But I think just based on the performances, I think Butler was going to take it. I really
Yeah.
do.
All right. Well, we'll have to see.
I guess we will.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go real quick to best original song. So Applause from Tell It Like a Woman, music and lyrics by Diane Warren. Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick, music and lyrics by Lady Gaga and Blood Pop. Lift Me Up from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, music by Thames, Rihanna, Ryan Coogler, and Ludwig Göransson, lyrics by Thames and Ryan Coogler. Natu Natu from RRR, music by MM Kiravani, and lyric by Chandra Bose. I'm guessing on these names. I apologize if I get them wrong. And lastly, This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once, music by Ryan Lott, David Byrne, and Mitski, lyric by Ryan Lott and David Byrne.
I want Lady Gaga to win for obvious reasons, but
Mm-hmm.
I have a sneaking suspicion that David Byrne might win for Everything
Mm.
Everywhere All at Once.
Okay.
He's the kind of like weirdo that like wins those kind of awards, like, and
Yeah.
people are like, how did he win? But it's like because he's like that insider musician that like musicians love.
Mm.
I just I don't think that Gaga is kind of polarizing in that people love her and then some people don't take her seriously. So I think that's going to work against her. Diane Warren, I don't think has won yet. I think that she's kind of cursed because she does songs for such big blockbusters
Mm-hmm.
that it works against her. I would be happy if like some weird song from I shouldn't say weird, if a song from like RRR wins, or but I think that David Byrne might win.
Okay. I my first vote was for Hold My Hand with Lady Gaga because I thought it was a really great song. But the more I've been listening to it and the more I
Yeah.
watched Black Panther, I really think Lift Me Up has a great shot. I mean, just the lyrics and the way it's used within the movie. And I just think that it might be the winner. I really do.
I will be so disappointed. Like, okay, how do I phrase this? Like, I don't want Rihanna to have an Oscar. I just don't think she's that deserving of it. So I don't want her to win. I like
Fair
her,
enough.
give her a Grammy, but like an Academy Award, I don't know. I just don't want it to happen.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, that's just my feelings, just my personal feelings as an old man.
So now that we know you hate Rihanna, which I'm putting words in your mouth. But now that we know that, and that's an established fact on the record, let's move on. So, so let's go ahead and let's just jump right to the one with the most nominees, and that is Best Picture.
All right.
So we have All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of the Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fablemans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. What do you pick?
Not changing my mind or changing, my opinion. Everything, everywhere, all at once is still my winner.
I agree.
Yeah.
Completely. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once, it could potentially sweep all the categories it's in, right? Because it's been doing that in all the other award shows that have been going on. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if it does that. How many of the other movies have I actually even seen? Saw Triangle of Sadness, saw Top Gun, saw Tar, saw The Fableman, saw Elvis, saw Banshees. So I'm just missing a couple of them that I haven't seen. But of the ones I have, that one is the one that really stands out to me. It really is, I think, above and beyond in its originality, and it's just everything about it is just Academy Award Best Picture perfect.
Yeah, I agree. No controversy for me. I am going with everyone else at this point.
Okay. No hate on Everything Everywhere All at Once then, I guess. So sounds good. Well, I guess this is a perfect spot. So since we're talking about Best Picture and movies and films and whatnot, our next guest for Little Talks here at PopCultX, let's go ahead and let's just run right into that. Why don't we? Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to PopCultX Little Talks. It's our conversation series where we chat with a wide variety of creative-minded people. Today, we are fortunate and lucky and thrilled to be joined by filmmaker Eric Shapiro. So welcome to PopCultX, Eric.
Thank you, Danny, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, it's really great to have you, especially since you come highly regarded from a mutual friend of ours, and that is Shannon Callahan, who's a fabulous musician, music producer, and film producer now, from what I'm hearing. So she connected us, which I thought was really cool. And so it's a little weird for me because some of our guests I kind of like to, I don't want to say digitally stalk, but kind of get like a feel for who they are before they come on the show. But I wasn't really able to get much because your social media footprint's kind of small, which is cool in a way.
Okay, I'm happy to hear you say that. Yeah, because it hasn't always been. Okay.
Well, you've worked hard to get it that way, it seems like, so good for you. I wish I could do that sometimes. But which is, it's really cool because now I get to learn more about you, and so does our audience. So, Eric, tell us, you are a filmmaker, a screenwriter. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in that, what really influenced you to go down this path.
Absolutely. As far as the first thing on social media, I'm thrilled to hear you say that because there was a time I had a Facebook account that doesn't exist anymore. And the one that's active currently is a replacement. So I literally deleted the past account. And I actually, there are certain screenplay projects I'm working on now that I'm not yet at liberty to talk about publicly because they're with bigger studios and they're under non-disclosure. So as part of those, when I got on board with those projects, I wiped my Facebook of any potential joke that could be inflammatory. I'm also a journalist, so I've written op-eds that are political, that they can draw strong opinions and so forth. So I very much once the bigger Hollywood stuff started cooking, I very much cooled the social media communication. So I'm thrilled to hear that was your impression because I'm always I hope this is nice and clean. I don't seem like I'm making any trouble because so that's a liability. But as far as getting on the path, that's a really good question. I went to college. I'm trying to think of a starting point. I went to college at Emerson College in Boston. And I studied writing, literature, and publishing. But I had always been really into filmmaking. Since I was 12, my dad got us a camcorder and I instantly started making movies at home with wigs and noses. I would play all different characters.
Nice.
So I've been into it my whole life, but it's kind of been in a dance throughout my life with writing. So in college, the technical aspect of film, and this applies to what I'm doing with Shannon now, in terms of the Titzer project. I remember going to film school. So this was in the 90s. This was 1996 I started. And I couldn't stand film itself. I had gone to a performing arts high school. I'd studied video, and it was a really cool program. Like you had to be accepted to get in. You had to show them sample videos, and I was like a video making maniac. So it was really cool. It was like fame. Like I got to go to this school, and I'm still friends with a couple people from there, and it was a great experience. But once I got to college and was studying film, I couldn't stand film itself. I've never been able to, like, developing film stock and like loading the camera. Like, so this was all before, it was literally like 2 years before everything went digital.
Right. Gotcha.
So,
I know what you mean.
So like, and I always like felt like, why isn't it video? Like video is so much easier, even though it didn't look as good at that time. But that was a frustration. So I pivoted to writing. And then throughout my life, that's been a consistent pattern where I've, through much of my life, been a professional writer. I've been a ghostwriter. I've been a journalist. Like I was a ghostwriter / speechwriter full-time for many years. And then now my wife and I co-own the newspaper in the city we live in, which is called the Milpitas Beat. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And so I still am employed, like fundamentally I'm a writer at that capacity. Yeah. I'm a writer, editor professionally. But what happened recently was really interesting with filmmaking because throughout my adult life, I had kept making films, and like since college, even though I switched my major to writing, right? So, but still, like I still really love movies and cinema and the art form and screenwriting. So I had produced a couple indie films, and I felt, partially because of technological reasons, that they weren't like as visceral or exciting as the stuff I made when I was younger. And I always felt that. And it was interesting because even people that knew me as a teenager saw my more adult work, and they thought it was solid and it was fine, but they did feel something like, he kind of lost something. And it was kind of a sad thing I carried. I carried it for a really long time. But interestingly, I started making, last fall, I started making like shorts on my iPhone, like shooting and editing them. And the production values were low. But Shannon, because she's very intuitive and very like emotionally driven as an artist, she and I have been friends for a while. And she like right away like noticed there was like a visceral kick. She had seen a couple of my other films, and again, they're fine. Like I don't mean to drag on the other films because there's people I've worked with on those, like stuff that it came out okay. But and I'm proud of them. But there's just something about the immediacy and the spontaneity and the electricity of like doing it very DIY, like with the editing and like. And then she instantly caught it, and then she very graciously stepped forward and said, "I will finance a feature film." The idea being that she'll be the producer, but she will also do the score, which is a total win for me because her music is excellent, and it's her and Jaime Morales, her partner, and so the two of them I've been working with, and lately in the past couple weeks we've actually been doing practice shorts with the iPhone 14, which gives like a hugely professional look. So on my Facebook, like I just posted the first one. The second one is still in post-production because we're adding visual effects to it. So we have this little unit. We're making these down and dirty, rather inexpensive projects with high production values. And like, there's just a visceral kick. And I'm essentially one-man banding in the production. Like I act in them. And then like for the practice shorts, like my kids are in them. So like, that's where I am. So it's very much been a journey of, because right now I'm 44. Like I feel like I'm at the right age to be like, okay, like, I might be like dumb on some level, but this is really the only way I can direct. Like it has to be very, like, I can't stand the professional format with the 16-hour days and the lighting and the, like you're waiting an hour for each lighting setup. And I just never could stand it. And people like knew me as a director because of my couple of features they were both good. They were distributed. They won awards, but they always knew I was miserable doing it. And it's because the apparatus, apparatus needed to change. Yeah, I know. So I basically just gave you like my entire life story as like succinctly as I could. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I appreciate you using your phone and just capturing what you can with that. And because that's been like a dream of mine, grabbing my phone, coming up with a story and just, going and then editing it and DIY it, like you said. Because
you should do. I mean, it's amazing, and I feel like it really is like a revolution in terms of how far the technology has come. And it's almost embarrassing to say that because, like, there's technology and there's also technique. So I wouldn't want to create the impression that I'm completely anchored in the technology. Nor would you. I know you're a creative guy. Like, but it's like so. There is like, but it really is liberating from the standpoint of what you can do with technique and. and it's just blown so much open aesthetically. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And it's only going to keep getting better, I think. Like you said, using the latest iPhone has the cinematic mode. I mean, it has so much built into it where you don't need the full apparatus, as you put it, anymore.
Yeah, it's completely true. And there's really literally nothing stopping anyone. And it used to be that, okay, even if you had other tools like digital cameras or where mini DV was a big breakthrough. There have been breakthroughs along the way, but in general, you were still bogged because of limitations. In terms of the next thing we're going to test is actually sound. I'm going to see how, if I have to record a separate track or not. And we just discussed that yesterday, and I'm willing to take it further. But I think the key is at this juncture is that the budget can be really low, and you can get something that looks completely acceptably professional, and that's a huge change. And it's interesting how people are in different bubbles with it, because there's people that are aware of DIY content like podcasts and it's like their favorite thing on YouTube, and then there's people that are still just very much anchored in their perception toward whatever's on network television or streaming, and it's not official unless it's there. And it's just amazing the extent to which DIY is really encroaching on the traditional space. It even happens, again, I'm a writer, so I've written books. It even is going on in that space where year after year, when I got started as a writer, self-publishing was really looked down upon. It was, they call it vanity publishing. And now it's, and I never did it. I always turned my nose up at it. I'm like, I need a gatekeeper. But now it's I think more than half of all ebooks sold are self-published. It's very much that there's no excuse not to do it on your own if you want to.
Yeah, and I think that's a theme I've found interviewing different people, is that if you want to do it, just go out there and do it. Don't let anything hold you back. Yeah,
you really should. And it's amazing. I have to tell you, as somebody, particularly at my age, there's something odd. When you're in your 40s and you're still an artist, it's it's definitely, so far for me, as far as decades go, has been the strangest. It's wow, there is something ridiculous about being an artist, even if you're an accepted one or a good one, or you have credits and you've had accolades and so forth. It's odd, but there is no denying that the fire is in me, and that it's there's huge life energy I derive from doing it. So there's just no way it can ever stop. If it's not there, I feel like I'm not activated in my purpose.
Yeah. Completely understand that. I'm 45, so I'm right in the same bucket as you.
Younger. Okay, got it.
Well, thanks. Okay. Yeah, I'm right there with you. That fire's there, and if I'm not doing something creative, it's just burning inside. I got to just let it out somehow. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And I think in that way, artists are not dissimilar from criminals. It's very much it puts you outside the accepted paradigm of behavior, which is you have your job, you have, you're essentially an earner and a consumer. And those are you're going to be in that box somewhere or another, which is not
That's
to say
true. Yeah.
It's just and of course people have meaningful careers, and we need people doing all kinds of functions. And I have a career as well, and so does my wife, but there's very much the anarchic impulse to still, be gonzo. And even with the newspaper, when I do opinion editorials, there's definitely an artistic literary thing happening within them. And it's interesting because I own the newspaper. No editor would ever allow me to do them if I worked for them. It's just too, I'm combining too many genres. But it really is, I think it's an important value system. It's better than being a criminal, right? It's because it's
that's true.
you can break you can break rules and get away with things, but it's you're not hurting anyone. So.
Artist or criminal?
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you. So let's talk about your writing a little bit more. You said you've written a few novels, written a few books, and you wrote your current feature that Shannon's producing. That's called Tightser, correct? Can you give us a little brief synopsis about that book or movie film?
Tightser, absolutely, and thank you. And I'm so happy to talk about it. Tightser is it's absurd. It's completely gonzo, ludicrous. It's about a dystopia where tights are illegal. The garments, they're not the only thing that are illegal. It's anything sensual in the vein of like clothing or makeup or like any sensual adornment that would essentially the government in the dystopia is only wants sex to occur for the purpose of procreation. So tights are illegal for all genders. Like it's like, so like so in the movie, I'm a guy who like is like, like I'm like essentially using tights, like I'm obsessed with tights. And I'm trying to get my I have one pair that's like ragged and I lose it, for a variety of reasons. Like I've worn them down, and then like so very early in the movie, somebody sees me like through the window, and I'm like and then I have to cut them up and get rid of them, and then it's like I don't have my fix, so I end up on an odyssey to get another pair. So it's just all about like repressed eroticism, sensuality. It's also about gender identity and like and just like also like there are countries, of course, where certain garments are prohibited, and like we don't live in that form of culture. But yeah, and then Shannon sparked the idea. Like she really got it from the standpoint of not got it like it's like some hard thing to understand, but like she was really with it like from the standpoint of just it's original and strange, it's timely, and there's something awkward about it. Like when her and myself and Jaime had our first production meeting, we were that was the first thing I said to them, which is that there is something about tights that's like almost awkward to talk about, because there's like they bring it, they elicit like a reaction that's either like eroticized or like, oh, it seems kind of funny or silly or embarrassing. So there's nothing else like them that feels like them or looks like them. So that was like ground zero for the concept.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. It really is. I mean, I think, and it's not far-fetched from what people are trying to do in reality today. I read somewhere that like some people are trying to ban yoga pants or something like that.
Oh, you're kidding me. Yeah, I never heard that. Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's interesting also from the gender crossing standpoint, how like, okay, like, there are certain things not obviously, but there are certain things that we just are programmatically accept as like, okay, like boys don't wear dresses, etc. Right. But it's interesting how when it comes to something like tights or like stockings or pantyhose, there's like this charge of softness and like silky gentleness that makes it like that much more taboo in the mass perception. Like you're saying about yoga pants, it's like, whoa, you shouldn't wear something that tight. Like it makes people like feel shame, and it's so there's a lot there. Like I felt it was like a good chance to do something very visceral and awkward and just like that. Sort of like people like like you can't quantify it. Like as it's unfolding in front of you, it's like, how am I supposed to feel about this? Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a movie recently called The Neon Demon.
Okay, I haven't seen The Neon Demon.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. I recommend it, and it has that sort of qualities that you were just talking about. It's very visceral, very awkward, and it has those moments where you're like, "What is going on?" It's very artsy. So, nice. I recommend watching that if you haven't seen it.
Oh, that's great. What's really funny, quantumly, that you brought that up is it's Nicholas Winding Refn, right? That's the filmmaker.
I believe the guy who did Drive.
Yeah, because it's interesting because Shannon and Jaime's music is they do all kinds of genres, but they I guess the correct categorization, which I hope I'm not getting wrong, for what's driving tights are is synth. Like it's very like pounding, very like electric sound. And that's the sort of music I know that filmmaker uses. And when we started planning the production, I tried to turn her on to Nicholas Winding Refn. So it's interesting you're referring to one of his movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is him. I looked it up. Yeah, you're right. It absolutely is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he definitely has it. And if you're going for that, I can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much.
That's gonna be really cool.
Sort of like a trance state, and also not a terrible amount of dialogue too, because like I found like one of the other things I do that I'm juggling is for the past 3 years I've co-hosted a show on NBC News Radio. Okay. So there's there's a lot of the guests are authors and filmmakers, and the topic of gender comes up all the time vis-a-vis whatever project, book they're promoting or whatnot. And it's so hard to speak about because you end up tiptoeing and like, it's just like, people get like can get very inflamed around different aspects of it. And I was like, like as I started thinking through the movie, I was like, what if it was just like highly visual and music, and it's like whatever thoughts you're having are your own. Like it doesn't have to be chatty or explain much and so forth.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is really cool.
Thank you.
So what other projects, I guess, of yours that you've mentioned some of your previous feature films and your short videos that you've been working on. Is there anything else that you're currently allowed to talk about?
Yeah, thank you for putting it that way. Like before we got on, I was like, wait a second, I better not cross any lines. Tightser is the main thing, and definitely the configuration I have with Shannon and Jaime is definitely the main huddle. There's also RJ Savan, who's a brilliant collaborator. He's been doing the color and visual effects on these projects, and he's going to help. He's going to be a huge component producing Tightser. So we have our little band in action, and there are hopefully within the months to come, I'll be more at liberty to speak of things that are bigger. But it's interesting because that's another part of the dynamic as well, is that machine, Hollywood, moves so slowly. Like, and I'm not complaining because it's really exciting to be a part of it, but it's also exciting to be able to like have control over something that's part of the DIY appeal also. Like you have control over it, you can go through it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I would say, as far as my books go, the most recent two are both from 2020. They're called, there's a novel called Red Dennis, which is about a guy which is very political and very like, also like incendiary and potentially divisive. Like, but it also appeals to a wide swath of people. It's about a guy that's shunned by his community. Like essentially just for saying a couple awkward things, like, but it's kind of like a Rorschach test of like, where the reader can decide for themselves how bad what he did was. Gotcha. And so he becomes radicalized politically, and that's a whole journey and odyssey he goes through. So that's fiction. And then I wrote a book called Ass Plus Seat the same year it came out. I mean, that was also my first book that was self-published, where I was finally like, you know what, like there's no taboo anymore. And there were a lot of like awesome authors endorsing it. Like I was like, okay, I think it's completely credible. Like I worked really hard on it. So I self-published that, and that's all about motivating people to write. So it's tips to get you to write. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because that was going to be my next question. What is your, like, how do you motivate yourself to write? Do you do it every day? Is there like a certain time of the day?
Very good question. I will say, like, because I've spent so much of my life writing, particularly ghostwriting. Like I have spent so many hours doing it. Like the volume is so extreme. And during my ghostwriting years, it was like 16 or 17 years full time. Wow. I would say in any of those years, I probably wrote like 2,500 pages. Like, so it was like extreme, and it was often 7 days a week. And it was always I was writing for clients, so it's not my own content. So it's always different. And, you know, some of them are similar to others, but a lot of times you're navigating a different personality instead of like objectives and aesthetics, and I'm tuning the voice to suit the client. And I will say that no matter who you are, like even if you've written that much, and I was writing so much that it literally, I think for a period, and this might even still be true today, it became easier for me than speaking for a while. Like it was crazy. Like I realized, like, well, I think, I speak fine, but like I realized sometimes I'd be in a conversation and be like, oh my God, like if I was writing, this would be a little, because it was like all I was doing all the time. It was ridiculous. So, but I will say with all that in mind, that it's always hard every day. Like starting is always hard. It's usually, and I put this in Ask Plus Seat, it's usually the first two paragraphs that are a hump to get over. Like any day, anytime, like any level of experience. Like at least that's my experience. It's like I'll sit there, I'll be like, oh God, like because it hurts. Like you're gonna go down into like a meditative state. You're like, I just want to like be up here. Like I just want to watch television. Like it's like I'm gonna hurt myself. But then once you're in it, it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. And I would say I usually do it in the morning. I usually try and burn it down in the first few hours of the day.
That's cool.
So if I have a writing objective, and it's not long, and I was vindicated by Stephen King. Like I think he writes for 4 hours a day. I don't want to get, it's something like that. It's like several hours, and that really is where I crash. It's like I can't, if I'm still writing in hour 5, my brain is mush. So it's usually like, even if it's the newspaper and I still have clients, like usually 4 hours, and like then the rest of the day I'll still be working, but it's like administrative, like it's like other stuff, like that doesn't require that form of labor. Yeah.
That's cool. I hear you. Well, we are a pop culture podcast and YouTube show. So I like to ask all of our guests, what are you currently watching, reading, if you have time, listening to?
Yeah. Okay. What's really weird. Okay. So I have, this is a whole thing that's been going on. Okay. So I have 2 kids, and the older one is 11. The younger one is 8. And it was strange because for the first 8 years of my older child's life, I really was like the only stuff I was watching was like his stuff, like Pixar. So it was like, and
Okay.
again, like I'd made films, like I was like obsessed with movies and so into it. And then like it was parenthood. It was just the
Yeah.
wallop, the impact on my schedule, and then working all the time. So I realized like, wow, I'm way off this stuff. And then when COVID happened, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be inside a lot. Like I have nowhere to go. So I literally needed a couple of friends of mine to help me because everybody knew it was like a weird thing. Like also my indie films I had made, they had gotten distributed, but they didn't do particularly well. Like it was an accomplishment that they got distributed. They got a certain degree of strong recognition, and I'm proud of them. But they also like they didn't set any big fire. Like the last one that came out was a decade ago, and subsequent I've had more momentum screenwriting for different producers, which has been awesome. But the movies themselves never got much going. So I was like, just like, I don't want to watch anything. My friends knew it. I was like, I just can't, like, all I do is sit there watching like how it was made. Like, I'm not interested in the story. Like, I'm like, I wonder how much this person got paid, stuff like that. So that was a long period. And then after that, after lockdown, I don't know if that's a politically charged term, but after COVID, a couple friends of mine were like giving me tutelage in terms of how to come back to it. So my one friend Pete, for example, was like, he was like, okay, like you've been away for a while. He's like, things have changed. Like there's like really not many indie movies anymore. There's not many dramas. Like things change over the course of a decade. But he's like, you want to go to horror, like look at horror because that's where the more interesting voices are. Like, yeah, the lower budgets, they don't need stars, they can have original screenplays. So that was the start. And I started like, and I've written horror, but I'm not like a horror head. But I really like over since COVID began, and I've been consistent even as things have opened up. I've watched like hundreds of films. So I would say lately, to answer your question properly, it's been more like looking at older horror movies, which is coming from RJ, the producer of Titzer. He's been like recently. I watched a movie from 1962 called Carnival of Souls, which was really scary. It was a horror movie about like a haunted carnival. And then I watched a movie before that called Island of Lost Souls, which was from the 30s, which is essentially the island of Dr. Moreau. So that's sort of older black and white stuff. Like I had never looked at it, and I've seen so many movies. I was like, let me go back there, like just finally, like I know there's so much great stuff back there, and I've been like flipping out with excitement over how cool I think they are, and they're very pure, and it's also this sounds like psychotic, but it's interesting. And Shannon and I bond over like weird psychic stuff. Like it's interesting. What's interesting about those movies is that everybody in them is no longer here. Like it's like watching ghosts,
Oh yeah,
so it's like
true.
yeah. So there's like a texture. It's like, wow, they're very pure. Like they're not like reacting. Like you could watch a movie from 2022 and you'll feel it reacting to the current cultural environment. There's all this noise around that. But if you go back decades or 100 years, it's like, wow, there's just like, it's very elemental. You're just feeling the story and the emotions and the psychology. So so that has very much been a big thing lately, those types of films.
That's very true. That's a good point about the older films. It is there are within their silo, I guess, right? So they're not worried about the current events or whatnot, and you can appreciate them for that. So yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was so late to that party. I was so one of those film people. Like I had seen some Hitchcock, but they were pretty much like anything before like 1968. Like I usually was like allergic. Like I didn't go there. Like I was like it all pretty much starts with 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then like I knew like everything from that point on. But I was like, okay, I can go back.
Very cool. Well, I hope your journey down that is fruitful and exciting.
Thank you.
And one last question I have for you, and this is going to be a little bold here. Any bold Academy Award predictions that you might have that's coming up?
What's so funny is if you had caught me in any year but this past year, I would have seen nothing. But I think, so I've seen a few. Let me like, I've seen The Fabelmans. Like literally years went by where I saw no contenders, so I would have had no answer. I saw Fabelmans. I saw Women Talking. I know Angela Bassett was amazing in Black Panther 2. She was nominated. I saw there's like a few more. I saw Tar, and It's so funny also, Danny, because now that you're like in the machine, I'm like afraid to criticize anything publicly. But I saw, of course, Top Gun 2, and I know that got nominated for things. So I think so it's pretty comprehensive. Predictions. I think it's one I haven't seen. Is probably going to take Best Picture, which is was it Everything Everywhere All at Once? That's the feeling I'm getting just from what I'm picking up. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay. And I really have to say I'm Jewish, so I'm partial, but like The Fabelmans was fantastic. Like I thought it was like, and Spielberg is a giant, but I thought it was one of his best movies. Like I thought it was very touching, and so I hope it gets recognized in some sense or another. Yeah,
I'm half Jewish as well, so I appreciate that part of it, and just seeing. For as a filmmaker, as you are, and as myself, seeing that him discover new ways of doing stuff in The Fabelmans, I thought that was really great. So that I love that movie, although I don't think it will win, but I did love that movie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I had the exact same reaction to what you said. Like it was like, what was so cool about it is I think because he is Steven Spielberg and he means so much to movies, there's the liability of like it would have been, and I didn't think he would do this, but just the whole idea of him doing a memoir sort of points an arrow toward like, is he going to make it like he was a genius? Because he is a genius, but like it's not like that would be a really bad look if he made a movie like, oh my God, I was so special, you know. So what was really cool is that like he presented himself as a guy that's just like trying to figure out how to get it to like, how do movies work? Like, what do we do here? And I thought that was a really good message for artists, especially with filmmaking, which has a very unsexy matter-of-fact element to it, as exciting as it can be. Like there is just something like where it's like, okay, at the end of the day, you're like working with gear and you're like, okay, wait, which lens do I need? And it can get very like dry. Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that he didn't make it like he was anything special. He was like, I'm just a guy, that loves this and that started doing it.
Yeah, and it definitely was a passion. And I think in his first films in the movie The Fabelmans, what I really liked was that he was doing it with his friends. And they were building it and coming together as a unit, and they all were just, committing to that. And I was excited because, you work with friends and to create stuff. And so it can be difficult to get people to commit as much energy as you have to a project. So it was really cool to see that.
That's a really good point. And I love I was going to say I love working with friends, which is fundamentally true, but it's more what you said. It has to be the right friends.
Yeah.
And then there's like nothing more fun. And then like you want to keep that huddle going with like, and that's exactly what I have with Shannon and Jaime and RJ. Like, there's like, it's like so fun and exciting that it's like, it's infusing us. And then, it feels like wild and dangerous to a certain degree. It's like, okay, we have to keep this vibe going, but we know like there are going to be times where the energy changes, but it's like, it's a very exciting ride.
Yeah. Very true. Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk with us here at PopCultX. We really do appreciate that. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Danny. I had a blast being here.
Yeah, and everyone out there, go look for Tightser when it does get released. It's going to be a thrilling ride, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to it. I want to be transcended by your film.
Thank you so much, Danny.
So, thank you again, Eric, for taking some time to chat with us here at PopCultX about your filmmaking, about your career, and we really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Great interview.
Thanks.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah. Well, as interviews go and episodes go, we are making our way to number 100. And so that's exciting for me. It's exciting, as we talked about, that we're able not just to get to that number, but, stuck with it. And we really, made an effort and put in the time to build up the show and get to it. So, and we couldn't have done that without all support from our loyal audience, so to speak. So we are going to be doing a little giveaway to thank you all. And so it's going to be a random pick from any of the eligible entrants. So go over to our website, which it's going to become more of a prominent role in the show, I think, as I try to, I guess, whittle down the Twitter portion of it. So I'm going to try to use the website as a more prevalent place to put our thoughts and opinions. So be looking out for more blog posts there. Be looking out for more shareable stuff that we'll be using. And the first big one is, of course, this giveaway. So go to popcultx.com/100. That's just the number 100. And you'll be able to enter in for our giveaway. It's going to be a really cool custom art piece by a person who we've had on the show before, and that's Jacob Edgar. So he's currently creating it for us for this giveaway. So be sure to go out there, share this with all your friends, share that website with all your friends, use hashtag PopCultX100 so we can look and see, and we want to see your responses, and we want to see what how you're patting us on our back, so to speak. So that's all I got for this week, Gabe.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this episode. So keep an eye out for that contest. Definitely want you to win some cool swag. And we'll see you soon. Stay safe, everyone.